Yo, what's up, YouTube? This is Arcadian Warrior, or on the fishing forum, Seaborn. I'm just gonna do a quick little. Everybody always wants to know what's the difference between star drags and lever drags. I haven't seen a YouTube video on this, so I decided that I'm gonna go ahead and do it. So first off, the actual star versus the lever. The great thing about lever drags is that you can always decide how much drag you want. With the star drag, you're kind of guessing on how much drag you put out. So a 12 aught puts out 30 pounds of drag, 25 pounds of drag. But when you're messing with the drag on that, you don't have there's no identification for how much drag that is. So you're always guessing, and if you need to back off of your drag or add more drag, it's kind of, a mind game. You just have to know your reel and you have to know what it feels like. Whereas with the lever drag, you have your presets, which can be adjusted with this little doohickey right here, and some have numbers, some don't. But you have your strike setting, and your strike setting is always what you want it to be. So if I want this reel to put out 20 pounds of drag, I set my preset to 20, and every time I go to strike, I know that that's 20 pounds of drag, compared to this reel where I'm always guessing. So that's one of the benefits of a lever drag over a star drag, is that you always know how much drag you're putting out when you use a lever drag. Next up is the reels heating up. One thing that the old cylinders always had an issue with is the problem with getting too hot with big fish. If a 12-foot hammer takes a huge blistering run on the 12-aught, the side of your reels get really hot and they can start smoking, and they get to the point to where they can get so hot that they can burn the hair off of your skin. So you have to be careful about that, and when you're fighting a fish, you need a water bottle so you can pour waters on the side to keep it cool. Whereas lever drags, that's not so much of an issue. They get a little bit warm, I've experienced, but besides getting a little bit warm, that's about it. They don't smoke, they don't get burning hot to the touch. You can, have a huge blistering on a fish and these reels will still hold up just fine. You don't need any water or anything like that. Next up is the reel's endurance and frequency. Pin reels have been proven. The biggest fish in land-based shark fishing history have all been caught on pin centimeters. And they've, I don't even know how old this reel is. This reel might be from like the 70s for all I know. These reels have endured the test of time. And lever drags have been on the scene for a while, but, some of the newer ones like Avets haven't been on the scene long enough for others to truly trust. But the only thing about centimeters is that usually it's fish that will tear centimeters up. And when it comes to taking care of centimeters, you can throw them in your car, throw them in the back of your car, hose them down real quick, and you're done, you're finished, and that's it. With lever drags, you have to be a little bit more careful. You have to, if the smallest speck of sand gets stuck in these interiors, then that can mess your reel up completely and make it really difficult to use. Whereas a scimitar, you can get sand all over this reel, hose it down, and for the most part, it's going to be okay. But like I was saying earlier, fish are what will tear the reels up. If a huge fish, like a hammer or tuna, takes a huge blister run on the 12-aught, these reels can literally explode. Like, I've heard stories of huge fish taking huge runs on star drag reels, and the reels just pretty much freaking blowing up. Whereas a lever drag, even though some lever drags do have issues with fish taking hard runs, they're never going to do the same thing as a scimitar. So what the difference with the endurance is that these reels are more prone to blow out from big fish, whereas these reels can stand up to the task more. And usually with scimitars, after a big fight, you need to get the drag washers replaced. Lever drag, not so much of an issue. For the line capacity is pretty much the same. I mean, a 12-aught holds 870 yards, I believe, of 100-pound mono. 80 wide lever drag holds about 810 yards of 100-pound mono. But the lever drags have thicker spools. The old school 12-aughts have a tendency for the spools to warp, which is what I'm worried about. The old chrome spools, they do have a tendency to warp a little bit. And the newer ones, I don't think they have the same issue. But either way, the scimitar spools are a little bit thinner than the lever drag reels, so they can't put up with as much pressure. The lever drags, like the Avet, they have huge arbors. The arbor, is the main, part of the reel that you put your line on. The arbors are very thick and very heavy, and they can endure that heavy, heavy drag. And then The main thing that got us into offense is the 2-speed. Because when it comes to reeling in 600-yard drops, a 600-yard drop with the 12-aught, give or take, might take about close to an hour if you get stuck on something or whatever. Lever drag, have a 600-yard drop, maybe about 15, 20 minutes, maybe less than that. These reels are powerful because of the 2-speed, because if you have a heavy weight that's out there, you just click the 2-speed button and bam, crank that weight loose and you're good to go. No struggling to pull the weight loose. With the star drag, you have to put your whole body into it sometimes. And sometimes the weight won't even pull in. And that's actually how I warped my last spool, is by trying to pull a weight loose. I tried pulling a weight loose and it messed up the spool on my star drag. So I have another one now, but that's what messed up my first one. I don't have to worry about this with the Avet. As a matter of fact, this reel always puts out about 30 pounds of drag, but if I'm having a hard time pulling out the weight with 20 pounds of drag, I can crank my preset up to 50 pounds or 60 pounds and then pull that weight loose, and maybe even more than 60 pounds sometimes. And last but not least, brands. Star drags are pretty, I think Senator runs the star drag market. Daiwa has star drags, I'm sure other companies do, but in terms of star drags, Senator's they run the game as far as I'm concerned. Whereas lever drags, you have a plethora of options. Pretty much Avet, Shimano, Everall Dual. Everall Dual, Accurate are kind of up there in the prices, and those are very high tier reels. In terms of reels that are affordable, they have Avets, the Penn VSW, the Akuma Makaira, and the Shimano Tiagra. And out of those 4 reels, the Avet and the Makairas are the ones that are, I think, more superior. I've never used a Makaira, I've only used Avet. I support Avet, I think they're beautiful reels and they're great, but out of those 4 reels I just mentioned that are affordable, the Avet and the Makaira are the ones that you want to look towards. And I've heard fantastic things about Makairas, but I just, unfortunately haven't had the chance to use one yet, but I absolutely love my Avet. But like I said, the biggest sharks ever caught from land are all called them Senators. So it's really about personal preference. I want to be the kind of person who can kind of dominate on both fields. I want to be an efficient fisherman with the Senators, the star drags, and I want to be an efficient fisherman with my Avet, the lever drag. So it's really up to the fisherman. If you don't want the hassle of having to deal with all the little things and spending the money, Senators are great reels. But if you have the money to afford one and you want convenience, and you want more stopping power for those huge fish and a better chance of stopping those huge fish, you need an Avet. But remember, nothing replaces experience, because there are fishermen who don't know what they're doing, who would lose a small shark on a reel like this. And then there's fishermen who can tame 14-foot fish on reels like this. You just have to learn the skills. So make sure you check out the forums, sharksfromthesand.com, southfloridasharkclub.com, extremecoast.com, and make sure you chat with those guys and you get to learn what you need to know for fishing, because nothing replaces raw experience. Seaborn out.